Oh, I'm a bit tired. It's been a big 2 weeks,
I know.
but I'm still in there for the fight, like every other opposition
Yeah.
member of Parliament this week.
Yeah. Thank you so much for getting up early to be with us this morning, Carmel. Let's talk about the budget yesterday. I don't know about you, but I look at it. It was more like cutting spending on one sector to fund the others. What's your opinion on this?
Yes, Tava. In fact, many political commentators have called it the switcheroo budget, taking from one place and giving to the other. But ultimately, there are groups of New Zealanders that are going to be worse off. The ones that are worst off are women, because it's their pay equity or their pay that is going to be paying for everything in the budget.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at the social services, education and health. Looks like the government is putting more money on these social services. Good or bad?
Yeah, a little bit, but clearly not enough. Our social services are seeing a lot more demand because so many New Zealanders are struggling. And then frontline services in the public sector aren't responding as quickly because there's been a whole lot of money shut down there or cut there. And so it's not enough. When you look at health, Tave, I think the deficit was over $1 billion, and then they've gone and put $1 billion towards it. Well, that's not going to be enough to get things moving.
Yeah. What do you think of the Kiwi Saver? Looks like the employer will increase their share by 4% instead of 3%, and the government is cutting their share for Kiwi Saver.
Well, that's right. It doesn't seem to make sense. They're telling New Zealanders, increase your contribution to your Kiwi Saver. They're telling the employers, you introduce the contribution to your workers' Kiwi Saver. But then at the same time, the government's saying we're going to cut our own contribution. So the government's contribution has cut in half, which doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you about the job seekers benefit. The government is now saying the 18 and 19-year-olds will rely on their parents to help them financially because they will cut the benefit, the job seekers benefit. Do you think that will help the young people to go out and look for a job instead of just sitting there and watching Facebook and all that?
Well, firstly, Tava, it's really hard to get a job at the moment, especially in Auckland, where most of our Pacific people live. The unemployment rate is around 6.4%, but it's over 10% for Pacific people. So the thing I dislike about this policy is it's blaming the young people for not working when actually the economic conditions are pretty bad at the moment and there aren't the number of jobs out there that our young people need. Secondly, there was very little detail with it. I don't know if it includes job seekers with health conditions and disabilities or whether it's just those that are work ready, because that's hard if it includes health conditions and disabilities. Yeah. And thirdly, it assumes that parents will look after the 18 and 19-year-olds. Right. What if the parents go, nah, not helping you? Yeah. Where does the young person then go for financial support if they are struggling to get into work? If they have a health condition or disability, or they just simply can't find it because there aren't the jobs out there at the moment that you would hope there would be.
Yeah. Okay, I was trying to look at the budget, if there's anything there for the Ministry for Pacific Peoples, Carmel?
We saw $36 million cut from the Ministry for Pacific Peoples. Right. That's off the back of last year, $26 million cut. Right. And what it specifically points to is the Tupu Aotearoa employment program loses $22 million. That's a lot of money. You would think that this government would want to support employment. And then the other place is there's $14 million from the business fund that MPP was running. But Tavai, the saddest thing that I saw in there was they took nearly $1 million out of the Dawn Raids Apology Reconciliation Fund. Well, that was funding for our communities as part of the healing from what occurred with the Dawn Raids. And it was only $840,000, and it just seems really mean that the government would take that money back.
Yeah. Okay, we were talking this morning about the winners and the losers of the budget yesterday, Carmel. Looks like the business, big and small, are the biggest winner for this budget. What do you think about this?
Yeah, and some of that's not bad, like what's been proposed there in terms of the incentives and support for business. Yeah. They were the winners. Some have said farmers, because now they'll get that tax rebate on their brand new tractors or utes that they buy. Yeah. But the big losers, the biggest losers, are women, And we need to remember that when it comes to pay equity and the gender gap, Pasifika women earn the lowest amounts in this country.
Yeah.
And so when the government cancelled pay equity in the way that they did, it is our women, our Pacific women, that stand to lose the most. And if our Pacific women lose, our Pacific families, our Pacific children, our Pacific men lose as well.
Yeah. Okay, Carmel, I was listening to the number one station in New Zealand this morning, and was more like giving the people their score out of 10. Now, I was listening, and I found out that most of them around 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 10. What's your score?
Oh, no. I'd give them. This is one of the worst budgets ever, Tavai. Let me just tell you. I've never seen the negative headlines like we saw on yesterday's budget. Usually it's the government's day. It was hijacked by the protesters, and most of the headlines have been negative. I've never seen that happen before. So I'd have to give them a 3.
Okay. So what's going to happen in the Parliament today?
So we continue to debate the legislation now that's in front of us. There's a number of pieces of legislation. There's going to have to be the social security legislation that changes the stuff for the MSD, working income things to happen. I think we've also this week got the first reading of David Seymour's regulations bill, which is, of course, of concern, and every other bit of legislation that we need to enact the budget.
Okay, Carmel Sepuloni, Whawhetai Telelava, thank you so much for your time. Is there any other thing you want to talk about?
Oh, probably heaps, Tavai, but we'll save it for next time.
Yeah, okay. Whawhetai Telelava, Mariela Aso. Have a great day. Thank you. Carmel Sepuloni, Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Malona Finangalo, Ile Paketi, Pura Ile Soranafi.